All right. Welcome to another Fun with Cars live stream. Trying to catch my European audience who probably had a long day at work today. It's Monday here. It's 2:30 Eastern in New York. I'm in the Buffalo Niagara region. So welcome all my subscribers and viewers from hopefully from Europe. If you're just joining chat, please click like when you enter the stream and please jump into the live stream and type your comments out. We're going to discuss some oil and oil changing. Try to do some myth busting on regular oil change intervals for your vehicle and why changing your oil early and often will make your engine last longer. It's one of the things that they don't often talk about, and I think that they push the oil changes a little bit too far in terms of how often and the mileage intervals. And that's done, I think, for a number of reasons. Planned obsolescence is my number one reason I believe they do that. They sell more cars if you don't maintain your engine as often. The other thing is they want to keep the cost per mile maintenance down so that when they sell cars or you're comparing vehicles, they're like, oh, look at it. It doesn't cost as much to maintain this vehicle because they've pre-planned in their assessment of doing oil changes a further distance out. Once a year oil changes. Some manufacturers, Land Rover, has gone to 2-year maintenances and 24,000 miles. I think is way too long. So at any rate, welcome everyone that's joining us. I'm trying to fix a couple of different. Oh, I got it. Yeah, there we go. Want to make sure you click like when you enter the stream. I only got a couple people in now. I'm giving it a few seconds so we get into the topic to get others to join. If you're just joining, please say hello. Well, I appreciate that. Jeffrey Miller commenting. And yes, I was looking for a message. I'm not sure about the beanbag part of it, but that's all right. I appreciate you commenting. I did want to, I'm trying to change the, I had a picture rendered to make this live stream a little bit more attractive on YouTube. And I was trying to get that to come into the live stream. So at any rate, we'll get into the topic at hand. So hello, Tommy. So we got Tommy and Jeffrey in chat. Please comment where you're from. Thank you, Tommy. I appreciate everyone joining us, and I'm trying to catch some of my viewers in Europe. The subject today I wanted to do was oil change and oil change intervals. Specifically, as of the last few years, probably the last decade, they've pushed the oil change intervals farther and farther and farther. If you ever want to hear some good information on an oil expert, I had Lake Speed Jr., better known as the Motor Oil Geek, on the live stream on Saturday, 2 Saturdays ago. We're discussing oils, specifically synthetic oils in antique engines, because they have an antique Oldsmobile engine that I'm working on. And well, I don't know, Puppy Dog Owl. I'm not sure. So we'll just put that. Hey, ASMR, whoever invented this. I'm not sure. I hope I wasn't making any noise that created something. Tommy, I'm saying your name again. And then Puppy Dog Owl wants to know why AMSR even exists. So if I'm crunching things, I apologize. I just have water. But I think that it keeps me hydrated. This may be Lake Erie water. No, it's Members Mark Walmart water. Anyways, let's get into the topic today. So if you're here for the live stream, first time joining us, please click the like button. Please subscribe to the channel. Got a lot of good, interesting content, in my opinion. It's biased, of course, but we do have a lot of interesting content. Volvos, classic cars. My age, I'm 4 times 12 years old. I'm 12 years old mentally, and I just turned that the fourth time this year. So this is why I think you should change your engine oil early and often, more often than what the manufacturer recommends. There's a couple of different reasons why. If you plan on keeping your vehicle for a long time, and you are like I do, I keep my vehicle sometimes for a decade or more, and I want to get the most out of my vehicle with the least amount of expensive repairs. So I had a GM vehicle that had the oil changed every 3 months, 3,000 miles, and I use only synthetic oil. And that engine had original miles, never been disassembled, 321,000 miles when I sold it. So that, in terms of kilometers, if you're out in Europe, it's past the 450,000 kilometer mark. I'm sure all of that. Anyone have the math on 321,000 miles into kilometers? It's 1.6 times the mileage. So it's got to be, it would have to be close to 500,000 kilometers. So when you change your oil early, so the oil filter can only catch particles up to a certain micron, depending on the oil filter you use, depending on the media it uses. So when you change your oil early and often, the particles that the oil filter cannot contain will get drained out, and you will get fresh oil in. So the tiny particles that are smaller than, let's say, 2 microns, if your oil filter is that efficient, I doubt that most are, it's acts like small pieces of sand grit, like fine sandpaper, and as the engine components touch each other where the oil does not create a boundary, it acts as sandpaper on the metal components that are wearable, like your bearings. So by changing the oil early and often, it gets rid of carbon, and it gets rid of the small micron particulates that cause engine wear. I was born in 1976, Tommy. And Tommy, where are you located in the world? Puppy Dog Owl? Who else is in here? Somebody else was commenting in here. Jeffrey Miller. Tell us where you're from in the world. I really appreciate when I see, I've had a few of these live streams where I've gotten people from, oh, you're in Sweden. Awesome. Someday, now here's my Sweden story, Tommy. I've worked for Volvo trucks for 11 years and then Volvo cars for 4 years. And I've kind of learned to love Swedish-made products. Even aviation, they make some great things. So in that part of Europe, anything that I've observed in terms of watching streams from, not streams like rivers, but streams like live streams like this from Sweden, and some of the creators that I watched from Sweden. It looks like a beautiful country, and someday I hope to visit there. So Tommy, I'm looking for you for all the tips on what to visit in Sweden. So I had a 1964 Volvo that I dug out of a field past Cleveland, Ohio, and dragged it back to Buffalo and got it running for the first time since 1978. I had that on my channel. Very interesting, PV 544. Fell in love with getting one of those cars after I had a picture. They had a picture of one of those cars in the Volvo showroom of the dealership I worked at, and it was staged in front of a theater in Sweden, and it looked awesome. And I never even seen one in person until I bought that one. And I think it's pretty amazing. It was made to compete with the Volkswagen Beetle. In my opinion, it looks like a Volkswagen Beetle and a 53 Chevy had a love child. That's what a PV 544 looks like to me. Tommy, is there a lot of classic American cars in Sweden? I only knew one gentleman from Sweden. He is a professional hockey player. He played for the team here in Buffalo and since moved on to another team. I don't want to say the team. I don't want to give it away, but very cool guy. And I had asked him if he had seen PV 544s in Sweden. I know they use them to rally race them. And he said that very rarely, if he went to a car show in Sweden, that he would actually see a Volvo PV 544. It was a P1800 that's in a pick and pull salvage yard not far from me. And I was heartbroken when I saw it at the salvage yard. The lady was older, and the staff told me that she traded it or sold it to the salvage yard for $170. I assume that she had the thing for years, or maybe her husband. It didn't run, and maybe the engine locked up or seized up from sitting, and didn't know what she had. She sold it to the salvage yard for $170. That car is probably worth upwards of 5,000 US dollars, which it would be probably 50,000 crowns if I'm doing my math correctly. Tommy, maybe you can correct me on my math. I believe the currency in Sweden is called crowns, and I thought it was roughly $1 to 100 crown, but I could be completely wrong. Maybe somebody can Google check me on my math. But that car was absolutely gorgeous in its current state, and it's sitting in a salvage yard close to me and already picked apart. I would have paid thousands for that car in the state it was and got it running again. I love the P1800 Volvo. It is a classic, absolute classic sports car. I've only seen one in the flesh at a local cruise night, and it was in driver condition. It wasn't like spit shine and polished perfectly. It had years on it. The paint and body showed it a little bit, but still it was an outstanding example of a unique Swedish two-door sports car that I don't think another sports car rivals in terms of that classic look. But you guys comment down below. Yeah, $100 is a lot in Sweden. But what would, Tommy, I'm going to ask you this question because you're there. What is the average price of, let's say, a 10-year-old Volvo in Sweden, or maybe a 15-year-old Volvo? What would you be able to buy a good used car for in terms of dollars? Because anything that I see on Facebook Marketplace, and I do get some from Europe and Sweden recommended to me, even though it would probably cost twice the amount of what the car costs to have it imported into the United States. But, a good used, like I have a 2012 Volvo S60 with 125,000 miles on it roughly, which is round figures about 190,000 kilometers. And around here, that car would go for about $3,500 on the used market. $3,500 would be about 35,000 crowns, if I'm correct. So, Tommy, what part of Sweden are you in? So, Volvo headquarters and where they made the bodies are in two different parts of Sweden. As I recall, I had to do a VIN verification for that Volvo because it hadn't been registered in so long. There was no paperwork in order to get it on the road in New York State. They had to have the police come out, verify that nobody's messed with the VIN number. Nobody did anything. Hey, Dawson's back. Dawson's out in Ohio. Say hello, Dawson. I got Tommy is in Sweden. Puppy Dog Owl says coldness Sweden is cold and dark. Where are you at, Puppy Dog? Like, yeah, they probably don't get much sun, but they're in a northern climate, you know. So, at any rate, when the police came out, they noticed that the VIN number for the vehicle had a numerical sequence that was about 8 off from the body plate. So, what I found out, whereabouts in the USA, what I found out was that the Volvo body was made at it was manufactured at a plant in the south of Sweden, and then they would truck or train the bodies to the assembly factory, Gothamsburg, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tommy. And Westport, Maine, or is that? Oh, welcome, puppy dog. Anyways, when the body was installed on the chassis, the VIN sequence could get out of sequence because the VIN number was the sequence of what the actual car manufactured. So if they're counting 1 car, 2 car, 3 car, the body, if the body got damaged, when they went to put everything together and that was a reject, the body sequence versus the serial number could get out of sequence. So that's why the VIN number did not match the body number. I found that out. It was an interesting fact on the Volvo. It was 1964. Oh, man. You guys are getting snow in Ohio, and it's supposed to have a real feel of 19 degrees Fahrenheit. That's Fahrenheit, and that's probably minus 8 degrees Celsius, roughly. I'm doing round math, not very good at doing Fahrenheit to Celsius calculations in my head, but right now it's like 55 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 20 degrees Celsius, thereabouts, 21. I don't know. Yeah, I'm on the East Coast in Buffalo. I got it here in Buffalo, Niagara Falls area. So, oh, wow. Yeah. So Tommy said 100 degrees Fahrenheit is 47 degrees Celsius in Sweden. We don't ever get to 100 degrees here in Buffalo, Niagara Falls region. We're in the westernmost part of New York State. I'm about a 7-hour drive to New York City. They give you kind of, I know one of the things that Europeans, and even we have family that are from New Zealand, the disconnect is a lot of the European countries are like states to us because you can drive from one country to another country, and maybe you drive 3 countries away if you're taking a road trip in Europe. Let's say you're driving from Germany to France or something along that lines, and it's something you could do in a day, in my understanding. In the United States, from New York and Florida are on the easternmost side of the United States, closest to the Atlantic. If you wanted to drive to Washington State or California, if you were driving and taking breaks, it's like a 4-hour or 4-day drive. We used to have truck drivers when I was at the Volvo truck dealership that they would do team drivers, and they would make that trip in 40 hours. So the truck never shut off. A driver would drive for 8 hours or 10 hours, whatever their limits were, and then the other driver would get from the bunk and then go into the driver's seat and then drive for 8 to 10 hours, and then they'd keep repeating until they got to California, and they do the same thing coming back, so that truck could make a trip with a load, a trailer, get from New York to California in 2 days, get offloaded, get unloaded with, let's say, California produce, and bring that back to Western New York. So, yeah, that's 4-day drive in a car. So it's a little different than in Europe, I believe. The farthest in Europe I ever got was England. We went to England and Ireland when I won a trip from Isuzu, and I actually had really awesome experience. Suzu treated us well. We got to see London in a day. We got to go to Ireland and get a tour of Ireland, the Ring of Kerry, up into Dublin. It was pretty amazing. So to Tommy asked the question, how many countries have I been in? So I would say 4, technically. So I am 20 minutes from Canada. So my trips to Canada, we used to do that when we were 19 years old. The drinking age is 19 in Canada. Here it's 21. So when you're in college, the big thing to do was, hey, we're going to go up to Canada for a beer, which we're crossing international border, but it's like 20 minutes. It's like a 20-minute drive from my house. And I'm in Canada, depending on traffic at the border. But if we went at night, it was usually nothing. And that was before September 11th. So the security was not as tight, I would say. It was just like going to another state, but like state of the United States. But now it's a little bit more tricky. I'm not 50 yet. Close to it. 2 more years, puppy dog. Yeah, I'm 48. So I always say I'm 12 mentally, and I turned 48 this year, so I'm 4 times 12. What about you guys? How many countries have you guys been to? Puppy Dog Owl, what state are you in? Well, I appreciate that. I'm going to put that on the screen because I'll take that as a compliment. How many countries have you guys been in? And Puppy Dog, what state are you in? I'm curious about that. Oh, you are in Washington. Okay. So you're on the West Coast. Dawson, he mentioned that in Ohio this summer we average about 94 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah. So I've been to Dayton. I can't count the number of times I've been to Dayton, Ohio, which I believe is where you're from, right, Dawson? Are you near Dayton, if I remember correctly from the other day? And it's also beautiful climate, in my opinion. I don't like the real hot. I don't really like the real cold either. Now so Puppy Dog, you're on Washington. You get the current from the Pacific Ocean that keeps your climate similar all year round. So that was very similar to when we went to Ireland. It never gets real warm and it never gets really cold because of the Atlantic Ocean and the breezes and everything. So Puppy Dog said there's a small town in Washington called Dayton. I've never been to Washington State. So, and Dawson's been in the United States his whole life. Tommy's got 3 countries. All right, what 3 countries you got? Now, Sweden, I thought, was near Norway and Finland. And I thought that the borders, it was common, like from Sweden to Finland, I thought was a short drive. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tommy. I do not know my European geography nearly as well as somebody that lives there. And when you, I don't know, at least I think it's human nature when you are like when you're near somewhere growing up. So I grew up in this area and we're right next to Canada. If somebody says, oh, I live in Toronto, okay, yeah, that's an hour and a half from me. 2 hours maybe, depending on traffic. I know where Toronto is. I know where the QEW is. I know how to get there. The perspective is, my own. But if I'm trying to explain that to, let's say, Tommy, who lives in Sweden and doesn't have that perspective, it seems a lot different. But all right, I want to put that comment on this. So Tommy's been to Greece, Finland, and Turkey. So how far away is Turkey from where you are in Sweden? Where in Sweden are you, Tommy? And please help us out with that. And then we'll get back into the topic of changing oil early and often, which is why I brought this up, because I think that the manufacturers make the oil change intervals so long that it causes engine wear to occur at a more rapid state than if you change the oil more often and earlier. Dawson's been to a bunch of states. Okay, so this is a good question. Puppy Dog asked, how did I decide to start this YouTube live? I had some time off this afternoon, and I've been trying to reach out to my European subscribers because I do have a few from England, Germany, and Sweden because of some of my Volvo content. And I've been trying, when I get a day off or time during the day, to try to do an early afternoon live stream, as it's just about 3 o'clock here in New York, and whereas it's noon on the West Coast, in Europe it's about 9 o'clock. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tommy. I'm going off of quick math, and Tommy's in Värmdö. If I'm saying that, I'm sure there is a correct Swedish way to say that. Dawson's been to Tennessee. I've been to Tennessee a few times. Tennessee is beautiful, actually. It's a good state, I think, to live in. Tommy said that the Sweden's climate temperature right now is cold. I have not been to Sweden. I was just telling Tommy earlier that someday I'd like to visit, just because of about 15 years of combined experience with Volvo trucks and Volvo cars. I would love to see Sweden. Anything that I've seen on the internet or watched anyone's content in Sweden, it looks very beautiful, and actually kind of looks very similar climate wise and foliage to where I live in New York. I'm basing that on what I see in my area of the world. Obviously it's different, and when you're there, I'm sure it's different. I'm just going strictly off of pictures and description and climate with the snow in the wintertime and the warmth, or more warm in the summertime. So you'd say Värmdö, it's hard to say. So Cast Blast, I'm not sure where that comes from, but your comment, I'm not really sure what that's supposed to mean. I'm going to leave it up for a minute because I don't want to respond to that. Yes. People are people. That's all I say. I don't care if you're purple or green or what. Treat somebody like I want to be treated and don't care about all the rest. So Dawson says he's been to Tennessee, South Carolina, Illinois, Florida, Savannah, Georgia, and New York. Okay, so I've been to all those states. We just took a road trip to Florida back in August and got to do the whole East Coast. It was kind of fun. I haven't done a road trip like that since I was a kid. I like flying most, but yeah, a lot of those states get tornadoes. We've had tornadoes around here too, not very often, and they're usually not very severe. Maybe a barn door blows off or a roof gets lifted, but nothing crazy. So Cass, where is this coming from? We're on a car stream, so I'm trying to get where you're coming from. Tommy, what's my favorite food? Let's get on a positive subject and we'll get back into content. So my favorite is Japanese food, but I also like Mexican. My family is Eastern European descent from Poland, So a lot of traditional Polish foods that I'm used to, and in the area where I am in Western New York, a lot of Italian and Irish descent. So we have a mix of those foods in the area. So that's the kind of stuff that I like. I'm not a big seafood fan. I have been to New England and had New England clam chowder, which, fun fact for everyone watching, it is illegal to use, and I don't know if it's, I think it's still on the books. It's illegal to use a tomato-based chowder for clam chowder in like Massachusetts, I believe it was. So just a fun fact. Dawson likes BLT sandwiches. I don't mind those. So Cass has got a Chevy Silverado. Seems to be a good truck. I like Chevys. Depending on the year, I think any of the Silverados past 2006 have the displacement on demand that gets into some complications and wear from that. Japanese food is about seafood, but I like hibachi, which that's more along the marinated chicken and steak side. I have been to London. We did London, tour of London in a day when I won that trip through Isuzu Commercial Trucks, and we got to see the Crown Jewels, Tower Bridge, King's Cross Station. We got to see a whole bunch of many of the cathedrals where the prince and princesses were married. It was kind of cool. And you could still see, we went to the Victoria and Albert Museum, which was near our hotel where we stayed in London. And you could still see they have like marble railings. I don't know how to describe it, but they're like marble railings that ran along the fronts of these buildings. And there was still bomb damage from World War II that they did not fix on purpose. And in the one cathedral also, they wanted that to be historically there so people could still see and remember that, you know, that happened. So my ancestors probably didn't like seafood. I like fish fries. Does that count? I like fish fries. That's a good one. How many languages can I speak? I can speak English. I took 5 years of German, and I could basically swear at you in German and not much else. I was trying to learn some Russian because I had a lot of folks from Eastern Europe, from Russia or the Russian old Soviet bloc Russian countries that were customers when I worked at the truck dealership. And I learned a little bit about that. There's somebody that speaks Arabic commenting. Wish I knew what that comment meant, but I appreciate you being here. Life is good. What? Oh, the trains in London, you mean? We did go on the tube. We went from King's Cross Station back to the hotel because there was a tube, which is the London Underground subway. There was a stop right across the street from our hotel, so that was kind of neat. And we didn't know we were in King's Cross Station. We got finished with the one tour, and we stayed by kind of near Tower Bridge, and we were wandering around. We ended up in King's Cross Station, which is famous, and if you're a Harry Potter fan, they have it in there. Life is good commented, I'm assuming in Arabic, hello, greetings. If you're wherever you're watching from, please comment in the comments. I like seeing and meeting people from around the world. We've had a lot of interesting places. We had Indonesia last week. We had South Africa, Kenya, New Zealand, and my wife's family, part of her family lives in New Zealand, so that hit close to home. Puppy Dog Owl, like like seafood that is not fish. So obviously crabs and lobster. And I'm good. Life is good. I'm glad you're here. I saw that you typed in Arabic. Where you? Algeria. Algeria. Awesome. First person from Algeria in one of my live streams. So welcome. Glad you made it. It's a car channel. It's talking about changing oil, but we kind of got off topic, and I appreciate everyone being here. So I like this platform with YouTube, especially with the live streams, meeting people from around the world. It kind of makes the world a little bit smaller. I get to learn things. I had a gentleman from South Africa on last week, and he emailed me pictures of the engine he was working on, and we had a long discussion about that. It was kind of Dawson. Good seeing you, man. Good luck with your animation. Thanks for coming today. Appreciate you. So Tommy, you were the only one originally texting, but I've had a few people in live stream chat. So sometimes, I don't know why it is with YouTube, that the chat and the with me talking, it disassociates and you have to go out and come back in. And life is good as in Algeria. Welcome. What's going on in Algeria? What's the weather like today? Tommy, I'm in the state of New York. So if you know New York City, that's 7-hour drive from me. So the state of New York in terms of size is like the size of a country in Europe, essentially. It might be 450 miles, like 700 kilometers, quick math. That's from one end to the other. And it's too cold in Algeria right now. We have an actual beautiful, I should do one of these live streams out, especially in the wintertime when we get one of our blizzards or snowstorms. I should do a live stream with the outside as the background, because it gets crazy. Right now, the grass is green. It's 55 degrees Fahrenheit, which is like 20 to, I don't know, maybe not 20, but let's say 15 degrees Celsius. And yeah, I know there's only 3 people in that stream now. It only got up to like 10 earlier. And I've been playing with the other part of the reason I'm doing these live streams randomly. I'm just playing with different times and ideas, days, because the vertical live stream format is what YouTube has been promoting. And I notice if I go into a live stream and I scroll up in this format to try to read the comments, sometimes it pushes me into another stream, and I'm just trying to just see if I can catch some of my subscribers in Europe during the afternoon in where I am. So yeah, Tommy said it's only you and life is good right now. I can see it live while we're watching, and it goes, I don't think there's a way I can show you, but it goes up and down. I use StreamYard, which is what that logo is up in the top corner, up this way. I can see myself on the screen. This is StreamYard. This is the software I use to stream, and sometimes it gives me a graph of the live people watching. So even though it's only us here hanging out, I still find it cool that I'm sitting in my basement, we're talking, interacting with everyone, and you guys are around the world, around the country of the United States is pretty big. So if you've never been to the United States, the only thing I can tell you is like the entirety of Europe is about the size of the United States, and it's different between the states in areas, climate, and everything else. Like our climate here is 4 seasons, probably similar to what you get in Sweden, and what it's like in Arizona is like desert and what it, very different, arid, dry climate. So in the stream, I think we only have 3 people watching. If you're new to the stream or you're just joining us, please comment down below where you're watching from. So far, we have Washington State, Ohio, Sweden, and Algeria. So that was a pretty good mix, actually. First time I had somebody from Algeria. So I appreciate you being here. Life is good. Hopefully you're still here. Maybe not. So that number, once again, keeps changing. And I don't know if you can see it live. C.R. Hayes is here from Iowa. Well, welcome, C.R. Hayes. I'm going to click that up on the screen quick. Kind of doing the live stream topic was why you should change your oil early and often, but kind of gotten tied up in talking with everyone here. So life is good. I don't like to get into politics on my channel because it's very divisive between people, and obviously we try to centralize around the car topic so we can find more things in common than things we don't like. The only thing I will comment, I'm hoping that he makes good on his promise to solve some of the world conflicts right now with wars. So that's the only thing I'm going to say, that I hope that he can get peace accomplished in, well, I guess it would be Asia, in Russia and Ukraine and everything else. So I don't want to say more than that, but that's what I'm hoping for. If it follows the trend of the last time he was president, I believe wholeheartedly that the killing and wars in Ukraine and with Russia, I don't particularly like what I heard today about President Biden giving them. I don't want to get into politics or geopolitical things, but I just don't think we should be involved in that at all, personally. That's my personal thing. That's not car related, and that's all I want to say to that. Well, I'm a little biased. My favorite country is the United States. So that's my favorite country. All right, Sierra Hayes, I don't typically get into marketing, but you are joining our live stream, and there's only a few of us here. We're hanging out. You can tell us about your small business. Ooh, new name. Okay, my thoughts on Pennzoil Ultra Platinum. I do not have much experience with Pennzoil Ultra Platinum, but I believe it to be a high quality, good oil. Based on the information that I've seen, I did have the Motor Oil Geek on my live stream 2 weeks ago, Lake Speed Jr. He does testing with different oils. He does oil analysis. His whole, professional career has been revolving around lubrication and oil qualities. So I think that he is the probably go-to guy for that. Well, Jeffrey, I don't know what that means, but I'm going to put this up just because it's so ridiculous. So there, you get your 15 seconds of fame there, Jeffrey. Not really sure what that is. Favorite color typically is blue. My favorite car. So I like cheap cars. I'll tell you that. My favorite in terms of like a dream car would be a Lamborghini. I've had some experience with Lambos and went to a Lamborghini dealership in California when I was there. But at any rate, Lamborghini is my favorite. I don't really fit into Italian sports cars that well because of my height. I can't give you the metric equivalent of 6'5", but it is what it is. Jeffrey, I'm not even sure what to say. Should I put you in timeout? I can if I had to. What's your favorite? Life is good. What do you drive? What's your favorite car? What is a common car to own and drive in Algeria? How about you, Tommy? Do you have a Volvo or a Swedish car, or what are you driving? What kind of car do you use for your daily driver? My daily driver is a Volvo. Volvo in the United States, which this has changed throughout my life, but now is considered, just like BMWs are considered, like a luxury car. I don't think that, like, BMWs in Germany are considered like everyday person car. You know, it's like a Chevy to, you know, Americans, a Chevy or a Ford. It's just like a car that's affordable that you can drive. In the United States now, European cars, a lot of them are considered luxury. So Volvo is considered a luxury brand, although I think they're more of a common person's car than a luxury brand per se. Although they have a lot of features, the modern ones, they were known for safety and design and structure. So we'll get back into the oil question while I'm on a brief thing here. So obviously oil reduces friction, and like I said, changing the oil early and often gets rid of the small particulates that the oil filter doesn't catch. So the risk to delaying oil changes. So the longer you go on oil changes, the breakdown of the oil occurs and the number of particulates in the oil increases. So those two things going on simultaneously, you know, kind of at a pace that almost matches each other, both negatively affect your engine and engine wear. So you got thermal breakdown of the engine oil. Lake Speed explained some of that when he was on, and a lot of his content has the particulars of the different additives to the oil to make it more slippery and how that breaks down over time, shearing of the viscosity. So if the viscosity breakdown, that increases over time, that makes the oil, you know, have a wear factor that increases, and then the particulates that your oil filter doesn't catch go up. The longer you let your oil changes go, that's why changing your oil early and often is a good idea and can avoid costly repairs. Specifically, the things that I see in the shop on a daily basis would be like the variable valve timing solenoid that I had to replace in a Ford, and the timing chain wear that occurs on a lot of these overhead cam engines with the small timing chains. So benefits changing your oil early and often. It prolongs your engine lifespan, improves your fuel efficiency, and prevents unexpected breakdowns. The unexpected breakdowns, I think that occurs more if you, let's say you held onto your car for a long time like I do, and you don't change your oil as often as you should. That's when you start seeing those larger repairs that are unexpected occur. How to stay on top of your oil change. Obviously, we have oil minders, and you have some shops put a sticker on there, the time and mileage, when to change it next. But if you follow your owner's manual, and it tells you when, so my wife's owner's manual in her new Nissan was 10,000 miles or 1 year, whichever comes first. That's the oil change interval. I changed it at 5 months and 5,000 miles with full synthetic, just to keep it a lot long, or keep the oil change and the wear down to a minimal, in my opinion. And I think a lot of people would agree with that. Maybe you don't. Now, on the environmental side, if you're an environmentalist, and I appreciate that, when you change your oil, it's not like we're dumping the oil into the ground. You're sending the oil to be recycled, and it often gets recycled into new engine oil. They can refine it again and turn it back into a lubricant that you can use over again. So that's on the environmental side. Obviously, you want to conserve as much as you can, but if you're conserving major components that require a lot of time, money, and effort to replace, by changing your oil more often and having that oil recycled, I don't think it's hurting the environment as much as some might think it does. That's my opinion also. Feel free to comment and question that, but I believe that's the case. So, anyone have any questions? I figured I open this up to viewer questions and any DIY tips. One of the things that I always do, and somebody lost their mind when I cranked an engine over in clear flood mode to get oil to the filter before. I'm not familiar. Uses stores. So I'm going to take this back down. Tommy asks, is USA stores famous? So I don't know if Tommy, was that a reply to the comment from CR Hayes? Because I don't know what he was promoting. He's got a small business he was trying to promote, but Tommy asks, is USA stores famous? So I don't know if you're talking in the United States of America's stores, or if you're asking if Volvo is popular in the United States. It's kind of considered like a luxury elitist kind of brand in the United States. So if you have I always say that my Volvo S60 is my Swedish luxury hot rod to my friends, kind of like boasting, like, I got a Volvo. What do you have? My daughter has a Volvo that she bought from my best friend's. Well, I'm friends with him too, but it was his old car. Oh, Walmart. Okay. Yeah, Walmart is where it is very common. And yeah, Walmart, we go to the store all the time. They have superstores and they have groceries and stuff like you can get at IKEA. Basically, the best way I can describe it. If you had an IKEA and a grocery store mixed together, I'd say that's kind of a Walmart. Feel free to comment. We do not have an IKEA in this area. My son is very big on going to IKEA. We almost did. The closest IKEA, I want to say, is in Canada, in the Toronto area from me, or into Pennsylvania, about 4 hours from here in Pittsburgh. That's the closest IKEA. Yeah, there's only a couple of us today, but that's all right. I appreciate you being here, Tommy. I actually enjoy the conversation and meeting people from different parts of the world. So even though there wasn't a whole lot of people here today, it doesn't matter. I'm trying different things in different times of the day just to reach out and say hello. I can, even if it was just one person in live stream, and we have 4 now. If you're new to the live stream today, comment down below, where are you in the world? Tommy's in Sweden. We had a gentleman from Ohio, Dawson. He had to leave, but Life is Good is from Algeria, right? Yeah. And Puppy Dog from Washington. So if you're new to the stream, come say hello in live stream. I'll put your name up on the board. It changes. So that's the one thing, Tommy. If one thing that YouTube does with their live streams in this format with the vertical, like you're watching on your phone, they're promoting that. So what will happen is, depending on how many people I get, I've had live streams where they go, I had 7,700 people watching. So it just changes. It depends on the time of day. It depends on the topic, I think. It depends on how many people click like when they enter. Sometimes it'll go up to 150 people watching at once. It really, I've been trying to track or come up with a solution as to when is the best time to stream, but particularly this time of day, I'm trying to reach out into Europe for my European subscribers, the people that I haven't met yet or talked to. Sometimes they bring up a Volvo question, and for the most part, the American Volvos are similar to the European Volvos, and we can talk tech and reach out. Tommy, do you have a Volvo by chance? What kind of car do you drive? I didn't see you answer that. If you drive a car, I'm assuming. But the one interesting point with doing these live streams like that, you can have somebody that does scroll through the live streams. So if you swipe up when you're watching, it puts you into somebody else's live stream. So I could have a random person that's not maybe car related, but somehow YouTube algorithm feeds this stream into theirs, and you get a random person. Sometimes you get a random person making weird comments like I got. It is what it is, but I don't mind it. Tommy, do you have any? You did not mention if you had a Volvo or what kind of car. Talked about where in Sweden you were, and is there anything else you'd like to say? Because I'm probably going to wrap it up. And I appreciate everyone that showed up today. I think it's you and me, Tommy. So you got a Nissan. All right. Yeah, my wife's got a Pathfinder. So cool. All right, Tommy. I appreciate you hanging out with us today and commenting, and everyone else that joined us. Sierra Hayes, even Jeffrey Miller, Prestia. Life is good. I'm forgetting somebody here. Dawson. And if I forgot or I didn't, Cass Blast was here earlier, but trolling me a little bit. That's all right. Tommy, have a great day. Have a good rest of your week. Thanks for joining me. Say hello to everyone in Sweden for us, all right? Have a good night.